Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guest, with your host, Christina Nitchman.
This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our guest today is Theresa Drescher, founder of City Santa and Everybody's Home. Today, Theresa shares the challenges and joys of running a non-for-profit and some of the greatest lessons she's learned on her journey. Each year, City Santa answers letters from children in shelters for victims of domestic violence and families in crisis around New York City. City Santa volunteers purchase the necessities these children desire, fills individual stockings, and delivers them to each family. This all-volunteer organization has been helping New Yorkers since 2001. For more information, visit citysanta.org. Everybody's Home is a place for like-minded people who love their pets and want fashionable, quality home furnishings for them. Part of all proceeds through Everybody's Home will help feed an animal caught in the crossfire of domestic violence through their Everybody's Home Pet Project initiative. For more information, visit everybody'shome.com. Hi, Theresa. Welcome back to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Hi, Christina. Thank you for having me back here on Savvy Central Radio. I'm great, thank you. I'm great.
Oh, and I'm happy to have you back, girl. You're doing some amazing work, and I heard about your wonderful City Santa way back, a couple years back when you first told me about it. But you've been doing this work at City Santa for quite some time now. Share a little bit with our audience about your work with City Santa and why you and your husband created it.
Well, thank you for allowing me to talk about City Santa again. City Santa we're a nonprofit, and we help families living in domestic violence shelters and families in crisis at the holidays. We help them with clothing and shoes and different necessities. And it started in 2001 when my husband and I heard about letters that children write to Santa that end up at the post office. So we went up there thinking we'll just get a Barbie doll or a truck or something for a kid. And we got there and saw hundreds of thousands of letters, with 90% of them from New York City, and most of them, like literally 95% or so, asking for shoes and clothing and underwear and food. And it so took us back that we picked up a couple of letters, went shopping, and delivered those gifts to the families that in the shelters that they were living in. Mm-hmm. And the following year, friends asked us, so what are you guys doing for the holidays? Going away? Going to the in-laws? And we said no. We explained what we had done the year before, how much fun it was, and that we were going to hang out in the city and do that again. And they said, oh, can we help? So we said sure, and my husband and I went and got letters. We went shopping. We then had everybody over, pushed all the furniture against the walls, made food, and people started wrapping, and City Santa was born. And that was in 2001. A couple of years later, we became a 501c3, so people could deduct their donations. And the movement, and then we moved out of our apartment into pretty much any space that will have us every year. We move from year to year. We are like a pop-up charity, so to speak, because the bulk of City Santa happens in the last 6 to 7 weeks of the year. I talk a landlord into giving us some space, and then we call the shelters and tell them what we have, and then head to storage, get all the furniture out, and then the volunteers come, help us set up, start driving around the city, picking up donations, wrapping gifts, stuffing stockings, writing cards, packing everything, putting big red ribbons around the bags, delivering them, and then tearing everything down, putting it back in boxes, and then helping us get it back to storage. So the whole thing takes place in about 6 to 7 weeks.
Wow. And you guys must be crazy busy during those 6 to 7 weeks.
We are crazy busy. with the wrap parties and all those. It's remarkable. But yes, we are crazy busy from the time we start shopping until the time we put that last bow on a box. It's crazy.
Wow. And you know what's really intriguing about this? As a kid, I had heard about the post office having letters from people in need where you could go instead of, buying presents for each other at home, go there, pick up some letters and exchange, go and buy gifts for, instead of each other, going to buy them for people in need. And I thought it was a fabulous idea, and I just never got around to it. But what I'm loving about City Santa is sometimes you're thinking, well, I don't know where to get started, whatever. You already have it all set up. All people need to do is help and donate and maybe just come on down to be part of a wrapping party, right?
Yes, we make sure, I work really hard to make sure that it's a great experience for the volunteers as well. We have our whole wrap workshop set up, and the tables are all set up with everything you need, from bows and candy canes and pens and ribbons, and there's tissue all lined up and pre-cut wrapping paper for all the boxes. And we make it an experience where it's just people come and wrap and have a really good time. And that's partially how we've grown so much, is that you don't have to do anything. We provide everything from the pizza and music to the wrapping paper and tissue and all the toys and things that go in it. So, we usually have a waiting list every year of people who want to volunteer because we're limited in space. That's always our issue every year, is what the space is we get to work out of. And Manhattan, it becomes tighter and tighter having somebody donate space to you, and the rents are incredible. So we don't rent anything. We always work out of some place that's been donated. And sometimes that's big enough and sometimes that's not, but we make it work.
I really love that, because that brings the whole sense of what the Christmas spirit was really all about originally, was about giving and family and Jesus for people who believe in Jesus. But that's kind of gotten lost with the over commercialism and let's buy gifts and oh my gosh, and the gifts have to be a certain amount of money. And I remember sometimes growing up that it was a stress that, did I buy enough gifts for my mother or sister? Did I spend enough money? And after that, you're realizing, well, what was this all for? Did everyone I gave a gift to really need all the stuff and garbage I gave them? In most cases, not so much. Yes,
really, not so much. And part of the challenge with all of that as we grow is it's still trying to keep City Santa very personal, because it's still very personal to me, and I really want people to feel special and like they matter each holiday when we do these things for them. And several years ago, the post office stopped dispensing letters the way they used to, and that forced us to change the way we deliver and where we get the names of the families that we help. So through somebody who was working as an intern at a domestic violence shelter, she explained the plight of these women and their children, and I just thought, oh, well, that's a perfect fit for us. They show up with nothing in these shelters. So we started working with a domestic violence shelter, helping all the families in them, in that particular shelter, and have picked up other domestic violence shelters over the years. And last year we started helping veterans who've lost their limbs in the war and are having trouble helping their families. And other agencies who have inner city children that are in crisis have reached out to us for help. Because when we help, we find out what it is you need. I mean, if it is coat and shoes, you get coats and shoes. And if it's food, you get food. And so, but what that has done is it's taken it to a bigger arena for us, in that you can't, if you're picking up a shelter, you got to take everybody in the shelter. You can't say I can only take 3 families. So it's a commitment when I say, yes, we'll help your shelter. Yes, we'll help your veterans. Yes, we'll, what that has done is it's put a lot of packages on our wrap tables. And in order to keep it really personal, you have to keep going back to, why do we do this? It is not about getting the job done. It's why do we do this? And this is because we want people, or I do, and everybody goes along with me. My volunteers are so awesome. I drive them crazy with, oh no, the bow goes on the upper left and the candy cane goes this way and the wrapping paper's like this and it's 2 sheets of tissues, because I really want people to feel special, and the volunteers are excellent about it. But as we grow, it's a bit of a challenge at times to keep it as personal as possible and not get anything mass done.
Wow. What I love, what I'm hearing is that you keep it special, not just for the people you're bringing the presents to, but for your volunteers, and also that sense of respect and integrity, because I came from a family of divorce, and there was a period of time where we were shoved out of our house overnight and lived in a van for 2 to 3 days. And we could not take anything but the clothes on our back and 1 suitcase out of that house. And so we were pretty much where those people were that come into the shelter, I'm thinking at that moment, with almost nothing. So I totally get that, when you're in that situation, you're just walking out sometimes with just clothes on your back and your kids on the clothes on their back, and that's it. So it's awesome that you have this for them to go to. Now, being a non-for-profit, has there been some major hurdles or challenges that you had to go through and continue to go through? And how did you overcome them and grow your organization at the same time?
Well, I would say that the biggest hurdle is still the managing of trying to keep it personal.
Mm-hmm.
As this has grown from just family and friends helping to people who find our website and sign up and want to be a part of it, you got to keep everybody with the same vision. And that's where it can become difficult. You know, why people do this. You got to keep everybody saying this is the overall goal and this is the vision, and to keep this what it is and keep it
Mm-hmm.
personal for each individual. It's managing a lot of people who, you know, may have or may not have the best, or not best, that's not the right word, may or may not have the same feeling towards this that you do. And then also it's, you know, we're very lucky. We do have challenges, but I have to say we're very lucky. A solution always seems to come up for us whenever we're in a position of we need more blankets, we need a driver, we need whatever. And as I said, probably I go back to my biggest hurdle ever is finding space to work out of. That's always the challenge.
You know, I'd love to hear a blessing that came when you least expected it in that arena. Do you have one you can pull out of your hat for us?
Oh gosh. Yeah, there's been, last year, I will say we picked up an additional shelter, and they were very far apart, and we have limitations because nobody in Manhattan has cars, you know, I mean, we rent cars or vans or whatever, and that's always such a big expense. And we were thinking, oh my God, we got to go way up to the Bronx with all of this. We got to go way down into Brooklyn with this. You know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And out of nowhere, somebody says, I got it, and picked up the phone and called friends at the Red Cross who said, done. We're taking all our, what do you need? Trucks, people, we're there. Tell us what time. And we went, wow, okay, there you go. Another is when we didn't know what we stopped buying. We don't spend money on toys. We spend money on clothing. Everything else we want donated. Toys are donated. Lipsticks are donated. Things like that are all donated to us. But there comes that time where you're like, oh God, are we going to have enough? Are we going to have enough? And the Jewish Community Center stepped in last year and raised over 500 gifts for us. So you just go, okay, well, I guess you just put the energy out there and somebody's going to pick it up and come back and help you.
I love that. That is perfect, Theresa. And this is a good lesson, I think, for all business owners, whether you're non-for-profit or just, a profit business, is that sometimes you need to be able to ask. And you'd be amazed at the blessings that can come forth just by asking for what you actually need. Because I know we have this myth, and I've mentioned it on my show before, that, you know, we can get there by ourselves, get by our bootstraps. We get to the very top, or whatever success is for us. But really, no one gets to success or whatever goal they're trying to reach by themselves.
Well, City Santa would not happen if it were not for other people stepping up. I mean, I feel like I'm incredibly, incredibly fortunate, and I am astounded by the generosity of people each year. I'm just humbled by it, because this is really my vision. I feel that people let me live out and let me have, helping these families. Yes, all these people get to help, and all these people are loving spending time donating, meeting families, all of that. But I think, wow, this was a vision and a dream of mine, and all these people are supporting it and allowing me to have it. And that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say to venture that you're also allowing them to have a part in the giving and the receiving as well. They're getting the gift as well at the end. So it's a win-win for everyone, the volunteers, you, and the wonderful people you get to serve.
Yes.
Yeah. Through all of your years of running City Santa, I'm sure you've had many peak experiences and moments with your volunteers and with the people you're helping. Can you name some for us?
Oh gosh, Christina, there are so many. I will tell you that I knew I was in this for the long haul. The second year we did this, we were delivering up into a building in the Bronx, and I went up to the apartment to meet the family and tell them we needed help getting everything out of the car. And so the 14-year-old son, he's 13, 14 years old. He's the one who wrote the letter. He volunteered to help. So we're on the elevator on our way down to the street. And he says, so how did you find my letter? And I said, we found it at the post office. And he said, wow, were there lots of letters there, like 500 or 600 or something? And I said, yes, There were lots of letters there, but there were over 300,000. And he looked at me with such shock and said, "And you picked my letter?" And I said, "Yeah, we picked your letter." And the rest of the elevator ride down, he was playing with the zipper on his hoodie, and he kept saying, "And you picked my letter. Nobody ever picks me. You picked my letter." I was like, "Oh, okay. We're doing this." Another one was a kid that we dubbed Black Socks, who asked for coats and food and everything else for his family, only he wanted black socks. And we thought, well, that was kind of odd. Okay. We found out, though, over time, in getting his family's stuff together, that the reason he asked for black socks is because they depended a lot on different public assistance agencies, and they gave out white socks. And all the kids at school knew he was very poor because of his white socks. So that's all he wanted, was black socks. And when we met him, we looked at him and just thought, oh, child, black socks are hardly the issue here. The shoes, the coat, you need all of this, which we were able to provide for him. But no, the thing that mattered the most were black socks. And that's when you just go, we don't know what drives anybody, what makes them ask a request or what's going on in their lives. But that was such a special moment. And when mothers bring out children's report cards to show us how good their kids are and why they deserved Santa to come visit them, look how wonderful my child's grades are, that kind of thing always is just it's so incredibly moving. Or when they hold on to you so tight, they won't let you go. It's like, thank you. Or we've actually had I've had volunteers call me crying after a delivery where a family took a painting off the wall and tried to insist they take it as a thank you for us showing up to deliver to them. It's like, no, keep your paintings. It's all good. And it's like, no, but please let me thank you for what you've done for my family. So we hear stories like that, or the father that breaks down on the porch crying because single father, we show up, he couldn't take care of his family, so we helped. You just meet the people who are so grateful that it's what keeps us going.
Wow. Well, I totally get you there, Theresa. Many years back, in my 20s, I worked with children with autism, and there's one girl I formed a bond with. And when Christmas came around, she was obsessed with what's her name? Mariah Carey. And so I bought her a Mariah Carey cassette tape, but they didn't have a cassette player. So I bought the player and the tape. And of course, her parents when I brought the gift, they were so happy, and they were also poor, and they wanted to give me something so bad. And I get that. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to take anything. You don't have anything. And so it's like, you can feed me. How about you feed me some Puerto Rican food? That's awesome.
There you go. Right. There you go. Yes. It's incredible.
Yeah. And for me, it was a nothing because at that time I was very blessed in that I had a job where every single year they would give me my weekly salary in a bonus. So I would take that whole paycheck and use it to buy Christmas gifts for my family. So I bought a few gifts for the kids I worked with who have autism in that organization. And so for me, it was like, whatever, I just get to buy them something they like. But when I saw how the families reacted, I realized how much this meant to them.
Yes. And I will say it's so fortunate for that. I feel that the volunteers actually get to meet these families, because that also drops judgments. When you only hear about families in need on the news and you can turn away, or you only hear about them in the newspaper, or what more services were cut, there's no direct relationship that who this is affecting, really. And then when you deliver with City Santa, you see, no, these are just regular people trying to make it work. And for whatever reason, they are where they are. And if there's anything I've taken away from City Santa over the years, it is not to judge ever. Who, seriously, are we to judge how anybody ended up where they are, or that we would do any differently given their lives? And it's little ways. We've been reminded one that was kind of big in the beginning, and but it was little as we walked through. We got a letter from a family who needed everything, including toiletries. I mean, they needed literally everything. And we get there to the house, we walk in, and there's a big, beautiful, big screen TV on the wall. And we thought, well, this is interesting. You got a big screen TV, but you can't afford soap. Good to know. Then found out that it was a big screen TV is a mother's safety net. It's how she keeps her children off the street. So it is more important to keep them off the street than buying them a coat, if that's her choice. And when I heard that, I thought, well, now see, what do you know? What do you know? That TV is what's keeping her kids alive, possibly. So don't judge. You just move on.
Wow.
And you just don't judge anybody because you just don't know how or why people make the choices they do or how they end up where they are. And nor should you spend time speculating and judging on it when you could be doing other things.
Yeah, I just love that story there. Or I think it was in my early 20s and I had moved out and I was only making $150 a week at the time, like a minimum wage job. And I got a really inexpensive deal in the building of a sublet to pay them just that. They were renting out 2 or 3 rooms in their house and I got a room for $150, which is perfect. It's one paycheck out of my 4. So I was blessed and happy and thanked her that she was, gave me something I could afford because I told her my situation. But a month later, a friend of mine invited me to a holiday with her. And she said, I want someone to come along with me. I don't want to be alone. It'll be fully paid for because you're coming with me and staying with me. So the trip was fully paid for. I told my landlord, the mailbox might fill up, but I'll be here in a month. And she exploded and said, "Oh, you can go on a trip, but you can't pay me more money. And I gave you a deal. So I thought you needed it. I guess you're just using me." And she went off. And I felt horrible. I cried all the way home because this was in the train station that she yelled at me. Felt shamed and guilt. And the thing is, she didn't know that I really didn't have more money, that I was being invited on this trip. So
right.
It is a good thing to remember not to judge. You don't know what's going on in that person's life, why they might have what you're looking at, that perceived value. So really good takeaway. Has working with City Santa influenced other parts of your life?
Yes, it has. Every year I meet women and some men in domestic violence shelters that are facing huge hurdles in their lives. And I see it every year. And I'd been thinking for years, there's just got to be a way to help that part of their situation, help them get through some of these hurdles, which I have to say, my husband so loves it when I say stuff like that. A big hurdle for these women is financial. The abuser controls all the money, and many do not have employable skills for a myriad of reasons. A story that has stuck with me for a very long time was a young girl whose mother sold her to her crack dealer when she was 11, and he kept her pregnant until we see her in a domestic violence shelter living there with her children at the age of 18. So you look at that and go, how can you possibly get out of your situation? The other big hurdle is leaving with pets. Through our work with DV shelters, I've learned that 48% of women will not leave an abusive situation because they will not leave their animals behind. 71% of pet-owning women enter shelters report that their abuser injured, maimed, killed, or threatened their pets to control them. And you hear it on the news, the cat at the bottom of the garbage chute or the dog that went out the window. It's just awful. And for many of these women and children, their pets are their everything, and making sure they're taken care of begins the healing process. So animals being my passion, this past spring, I opened a business with a partner, and it's called Everybody's Home. And we sell home furnishings for pets. And there are 2 goals with this business. Well, 3, if you count making a living. One is to help these families in the shelters feed their pets. We have partnered with Urban Resource Institute and their People and Animals Living Safely program. They run and manage the only 2 domestic violence shelters in all of New York City that allows victims to bring their pets. So what we are doing is we are using a portion of the sales from our pet beds and bowls to feed the animals in their shelters. And right now we are feeding several dogs and cats, a turtle, and 2 fish. The other, and this is a more long-term goal with Everybody's Home, is to create a learning center with our business, because many of these women, as I said, do not have practical skills they can take into the marketplace. So our goal is to set our business up to where we can help train them with basic skills that they can then be able to get out and hopefully become self-reliant. So that's a ways away, but that is certainly, we're very excited about that part of the possibilities. But actually feeding animals in domestic violence shelters, that we're doing now through Everybody's Home.
That, when I heard that, I was blown away. I didn't even know or think of that particular situation. And why should I? I'm not in it. And it's interesting. People don't think, hey, what happens when your whole family is broken apart one day? Or even, let's say, not something like domestic violence, but what if your whole house burns down and you're a single mother?
True.
And now you have pets. You're supposed to just dump them in the street just because you've become homeless. So yeah, it's a very important issue. So everyone who buys the beds and bowls and stuff from Everybody's Home would be contributing towards this amazing.
Yes, they will be helping feed animals living in domestic violence shelters. It's announcing this month in October for our Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So you'll be able to see when you go on our Facebook page, our first delivery of what we're doing. Because with this partnership just started with, you'll be able to see the food and us delivering. And I mean, you can't see the shelters. We can't take photographs of any of that. But certainly you will see the reality of you purchasing something from us and us actually helping feed animals with that.
Wow, I love that.
Thanks.
And I'm just curious, Theresa, and this came up while you were talking before, because I can imagine that going through a really tough situation like losing your home or becoming homeless or even a domestic violence issue, that there's a lot of guilt and shame attached to all that. Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a family that kind of didn't want to take your help?
Yes. Yes, there are families that if they write a letter, there's sometimes that we'd surprise a family that we'd even get the letter and the parents would be a little taken aback that their children did this and that we actually found their letter and delivered. But there are also religious reasons people living in shelters. Jehovah's Witnesses will not allow them to bring or accept any gifts, even if they are destitute living in a shelter like this. Mm-hmm. So they've said no, and that's very hard for us because, well, we've already picked up the whole shelter. We're helping all the families, and it's not for us to judge or say anything. It just, you feel like, wow, your kids are going to see all the other kids in the shelter getting great Christmas gifts and comforters and towels and, things that help them get out of this shelter, and you can't. So that's challenging. But yes, we've had that where people have said thank you, but no thank you, or understandable, they don't want to meet us, and that's all good. We get that too. If you don't want to, because a lot of them are very embarrassed, if you, as you said, or just humiliated by their position, and so we don't want to make it any worse by, forcing them to meet us. So we'll say absolutely not. We'll deliver. We'll leave it here, and it gets arranged that it actually ends up with.
Fabulous. Well, that's great to hear. What are your long-term vision for City Santa, and also, by the way, for Everybody's Home?
Oh, well, thank you. City Santa, we will continue it to be a pop-up charity, and because it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a whole lot of fun. But the part of City Santa I would like to see grow is the connections part of our organization, because I will get phone calls from manufacturers or people who have excess inventory they want to donate, and they don't know where to put it or where to send it. I know people who can use anything and everything. Mm-hmm. So either I can connect you to the person who can directly use it, or I can connect you to somebody who knows somebody who can directly use it. Through all of the stuff that we're doing, I found out that in just the Lower East Side of Manhattan is the highest concentration of shelters of any kind in Manhattan, whether it be domestic violence or homeless or halfway houses or whatever. So we're surrounded by shelters. And there's also connections we have through people like the Fresh Air Fund, where we'll send 3,000 blankets when somebody says, do you need 3,000 blankets? I can't take 3,000 blankets. Our organization's way too small. Last year, we helped around 450 people. So that's our size compared to somebody saying 3,000 blankets. But I would like for that part to grow, because that's easy to connect the people who have with the people who need. Mm-hmm. And for Everybody's Home, it's to definitely grow this as a business that we can then take it beyond just pet home furnishings into human home furnishings. But it's to grow that business and be able to set up the learning center to help teach women basic skills to help better their lives, and to continue feeding animals in the crossfires of domestic violence.
Yeah. And I must say, I did see a wonderful piece, a throw for a seat, a chair like that throw over the sides of the chair. It was perfect for a cat that likes to scratch. So I've been taking care of cats. I was like, especially interested in that one. Yeah, I thought that was a
Yes.
great idea.
Thank you. Yes, that's I will tell you that's one of the things that people do seem to gravitate towards on our site is things to cover their furniture.
Yeah. Before we head on out here, Theresa, is there any last words you'd like to leave with our audience?
I think the thing that I have learned over the years that still is it's really big for me is not to get stuck in the how something is going to happen. Just keep doing it and putting it out there, and the how will reveal itself. Because too many times something would be put in front of me and I would just think, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off, or how we're going to do this, or how we're going to get from A to B to C. And when I start focusing on the how, that goes right into my head, and that's not very solution driven. Mm-hmm. So if you stay in the, I don't know how, I'm just going to keep putting it all out there and putting it and calling and asking and just doing, the how reveals itself.
Yeah, that is a perfect way to end. And I've witnessed that in my own life. I think back in May, a person who I helped put on a book launch decided to reach out to make it really inspirational and value for the people coming to her book launch. She decided to reach out to health organizations and organizations that sell products, health products, and ask if they would donate. And she got over $3,000 to $4,000 worth of products donated just by asking. Wow. And so it's amazing, like what happened with you and getting blankets, that sometimes it's just a matter of just putting one foot in front of the other. Yes. And asking. With community, anything's possible.
True. And the how brings up a lot of fear that shuts you down. Yeah, so don't worry about how.
Absolutely. Well, Theresa, I want to thank you again for coming to Savvy Central Radio again and sharing your gifts and wisdom.
Thank you so much.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business.
Savvy Central Radio is home to over 100,000 listeners per month globally and runs in syndication on 8 AM and FM platforms, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out more about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out to the world, call 718 area code 713-2289 or email at savvycentralradio@gmail.com.